Yesterday, in shocking testimony before the House Homeland Security Committee, a former senior-ranking Border Patrol official, Aaron Heitke, alleged that the Biden administration intentionally covered up the border crisis. And in his testimony, Heitke explained the lengths that the administration went to lie to the American people, conceal information from the media. Now, take a look at this.
For the first time in my 25 years, and under 5 different administrations, whether through neglect or on purpose, I saw a large-scale lapse in our ability to return people to their country of origin. Simultaneously, in San Diego, we had an exponential increase in significant interest aliens. These are aliens with significant ties to terrorism. Prior to this administration, the San Diego sector averaged 10 to 15 SIA arrests per year. Once word was out the border was far easier to cross, San Diego went to over 100 SIAs in 2022, well over that in 2023, and even more than that registered this year. These are only the ones we caught. At the time, I was told I could not release any information on this increase in SIAs or mention any of the arrests. The administration was trying to convince the public there was no threat at the border. I had to release illegal aliens by the hundreds each day into communities who could not support them. To quiet the problem, 2 flights a week were provided from San Diego to Texas. These flights simply brought aliens that would have been released in San Diego over to Texas. Each flight cost approximately $150,000. This was the administration's way to try and quiet the border-wide crisis. Through pressure from the administration, my headquarters became more interested in the fiction that being portrayed in the media and not at all concerned with reality. Each time we asked for help in dealing with a new issue, it fell on deaf ears. At times in San Diego, we had 2,000 or more aliens sitting in between the fences, asking to turn themselves in. I was told to move them out of sight of the media.
All right, here with more, former U.S. Border Patrol San Diego Sector Chief Aaron Heitke. So you were told to keep these illegal immigrants out of sight. At the same time, Harris, Biden, Mayorkas, and every other administration official, they were telling the American people that the border is secure and the border is closed. So they basically were telling you to lie to the American people and cover it up on their behalf. Is that an accurate description?
I think it's pretty accurate. They wouldn't allow us to put out any information. It was very frustrating knowing what was going on, knowing that there were large gaps in the border coverage, and that there were real threats there that we weren't able to address, and that there were real threats entering our country.
And who was telling you to do that?
It came through my headquarters, Border Patrol headquarters.
Okay, and they also prevented you from reporting the names and the actual number of illegal immigrants that had ties to terror? And if that's the case, because we know there are hundreds of people with terror ties in this country, we know that there are people, 11.5 million is now the number of people we know about. And then of course, there are the gotaways, but people coming from 180 countries, that would include our top geopolitical foes and countries with terror ties. That would be Iran and Syria and Egypt and Afghanistan, and that would include Venezuela. That would include tens and tens of thousands from Russia and China. Am I correct about that?
You are correct. We are not allowed to put any information out on any of the individuals, whether it be the significant increase in number of the significant interest aliens that entered, or any information out that we had large gaps, entire zones across Texas, Arizona, and California that had no agent presence for weeks at a time. We have no idea what and who entered our country over that time frame, and we weren't allowed to put that information out either.
If you couldn't put out the name and the numbers of people that had known terror ties, what happened to those people? Were they released into our country even though you knew they had known terror ties?
The actual end state for all of those people, I don't know where any of them ended up. If they had significant terror ties, we would turn them over to the FBI for further questioning, and then they would go over to Immigration and Customs Enforcement for final determination. I don't know the ultimate, but as many as there were and as much of it was going on, likely many of them were released into the United States public.
Is it safe to say that you have knowledge that there are people from countries with known terror ties and people that have known terror ties themselves? Is it safe to say that you are pretty confident that they have been released into our country?
I think it's safe to say that they are here for sure. Between those numbers that came through, the inability that agents had to do proper questioning because there were so many people that they had to deal with each day, that they slipped through the cracks and entered into our country, yes.
So would it then be logical to conclude, if people with known terror ties from countries with known terror ties that you were told to lie about, would it be logical to conclude that they're likely in this country plotting, planning, and scheming another 9/11 attack or worse? And if, in fact, that happens, would it be fair to blame Harris and Biden and Mayorkas for allowing this to happen? And if Americans die, wouldn't they have blood on their hands?
Well, I think it's one of the things that keeps me up at night. It's one of the things that keeps all the agents that I worked with up at night, knowing that there are those threats that likely did and have come into our country that are here, and that is a much more likely possibility now with the inability to do the Border Patrol mission of national security over the last several years.
Were you forced to release illegal immigrants and pay for flights from your sector in San Diego to Texas? And how much did those flights cost the American taxpayer, and how many flights were there?
The flights started when we were releasing hundreds and sometimes 1,000 more people a day into downtown San Diego. We were given 2 flights a week from San Diego to Texas, about a little over 100 people per day, per flight. So twice a week to fly them to Texas to be released. When I asked why that was being done, I was told that there was a problem in Texas. There was not a problem in California. We received those flights for about a month, and then they stopped. Once those flights stopped, we continued to release. We had no choice. I was told not to release anymore into San Diego. My reply was that I cannot keep those people. Once a person is determined to be released, it's a Fourth Amendment violation to hold them in detention. They must be released. And so I told my headquarters that I would not stop releasing.
So basically, they put you in a position that you had to violate what the laws of this country are, because last I checked, you're not allowed to enter the country without approval. And then you became, in that sense, they put you in a position where you had to release them into the sanctuary state of California. But Aaron Heitke, thank you for being honest with the American people and telling them the truth. It's important they know. And I'll add that when they got here, that now Kamala supports decriminalizing them, getting them on a path to citizenship after they get free housing, health care, education, and if they want a free sex change operation. And in Minnesota, you get a legal driver's license and you get a free college tuition paid for you. Amazing country we live in. Thank you. We do appreciate your honesty. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.